Alrighty, so for the first round interview, Coda is going to be a really helpful resource for coordinating the interview. It's kind of, again, a one-stop shop for the interview. So when going into the interview, what you're going to want to do is decide what questions you want to ask and who you want to ask them. And now all of the information you spent time, putting in a while ago at the beginning will come in handy. So first, you're going to have a candidate name. Now, all of these will be filled in if you have your candidate list like you had. So let's say, remember I asked you to put in the list of the candidate names. So name 1, name 2, name 3. So you see this automatically populates this table. So now what you're going to do is, let's say you're interviewing name at the beginning. You can close these if you want. You can also keep them expanded, but it just makes it easier to view. Now, you're thinking about their interview. You want the first question to be asked by Aiden. You want that question to be one of the, remember you should have written these questions, or you maybe have used the example ones, but you're going to scroll through and think about, well, what question do we want to start with? What competency do we want to look at? Presumably, let's say you want to look at job qualifications. So now you can see, the good thing about Coda is that because this question was linked to job qualifications, you can see what that question is aiming at, and you can see the full description of that qualification or that competency. And then you're going to do this for every question. You want the next question to be asked by Rohan. You want it to be a question about, and another little helpful thing is you can see the quality on the right side here and the full description. So you want it to be a question, we just did job qualification, so let's say problem solving. So again, we chose this question. We have a criteria description that's short and then a long one. And the helpful thing is that during the interview, now you can say, okay, Aiden, you're asking the next question. Instead of having to say that, you have this list. And a nice thing is that, let's say somebody's out that day, or somebody doesn't show up to the interview, you can just reassign that question back to Aiden, or back to somebody else, which is super nice, super dynamic, super flexible on the spot. And the nice thing here is that, let's say you've gone through and you're only asking 2 questions in this interview. You can fold down this name and you have the next person. Presumably you're asking the same question, so you go through, let's say you want the same person each time, you can go assign, the same question, go through this list of questions. This list will be shorter for you. It's really long now because there's a bunch of sample questions, but if you have deleted the information on the old table like we talked about, this won't be super long, but it might look like that right now. So, you put in another question, etc. So you do this for everyone. Now, during the interview, the nice thing about Coda is that you'll be able to take notes, but instead of taking notes at this table where you have every single person's name. Here, I'm back to the table now. What you can do is that, let's say you're a hiring manager. You go to this table, you go to this page, and you have the same table we just looked at. You have all of the questions, etc. And if someone were to edit the table, it would change it live for you. But now, instead of having all of the notes sections, you have a note section for yourself. Same for panelist 1. If you go over here and click panelist 1, you go over here, you have the same table. You'll be able to see any changes. But now, and I got to change this, sorry, it says panelist 2. But this is the screen for panelist 1. Now, if you're panelist 2, you go over here and you have your panelist. Again, I got to reverse this. But you have basically a note section for yourself. So panelist 3 here will be able to take notes. It won't affect panelist 2 because they only have their own document, but it will affect the master document here. I'm not sure where I actually put those notes. It will affect the master document here because when you put the notes, it changes it overall. So you can see the notes here. But the advantage of this is that when somebody's typing a notes during an answer to a question, you don't really want to be looking at somebody else's notes while you're typing your own notes. So maybe you can go back to this master document after the interview and look at what everybody thought. But during the interview, you can go to your own page and look at it. Alrighty, so that's the interview process. And then the next video will concern the rating process after the interviews. Thank you so much.